Hi everyone, often I review different brands and today we got another one and this time it's the POCO X5 and there are some comments that I have about it. Either way, let's start with the unboxing itself just to showcase what you get with the phone itself and of course talk about the review of said device. Because again, I do have some comments. Let's dive into the video. So as stated, let's start with the unboxing itself to see what you get with the phone itself. Of course, you will get your normal things like your SIM ejection tool, but also just like every other POCO I've used so far, you get a case included and of course your manuals as well. It is really nice to see that you get extra things for phones like this. Sadly, we don't get that in flagships. Then of course, when it comes to the unboxing experience, we will find the phone itself after that. This is wrapped into a plastic. And as you can see, I got the blue version of course, the POCO X5. I actually kinda like the design, it looks nice overall. Below that you will find your charging, which is at 33 watts, and of course your USB-A to USB-C charging cable. Also good in terms of features is that you do get micro SD support and of course dual SIM as well. You can choose either dual SIM or micro SD and a SIM. And of course, really nice extra feature as well is the 3.5mm headphone jack and an IR blaster. So to begin with, I've used quite a lot of POCO devices and a lot of POCO devices I will praise for a good quality for the price to performance. I think POCO has released a lot of phones that I truly enjoyed, like for instance the POCO F3 and so on. Those phones are stellar. It's the entry that somewhat still needs work. And I get it, not all the phones are of course flagships, not all the phones are mid-range phones. You need phones that are cheaper for people that cannot afford a high-end phone or a mid-range phone, which is perfectly fine. But with that, you do want a phone that does well, and really the POCO X5 is a hard one, because there are definitely good things to comment about it. To begin with, it has a good display for the price, it gets bright enough outside, no issues whatsoever. Also, battery life is excellent on the POCO X5, I can easily make it till the end of the day. However, as stated, there are some comments that I have about the POCO X5. But let's just quickly run over the specifications before I jump into it a little bit further. It comes with the Snapdragon 695, 8GB of RAM, and for my version I have 256GB of memory. In terms of Android, it runs on Android 12 and of course with their own MIUI skin that is 13.02. In terms of display, you get a 6.67 inch display and of course it is an AMOLED display with 120Hz and 1200 nits. When it comes to the camera, we get a 48 megapixel main sensor, an 8 megapixel ultra wide and of course our 2 megapixel macro. In terms of front-facing camera, it's a 30 megapixel sensor and that is limited just like the rear camera to 1080p and 30 frames per second. So the POCO X5 on paper doesn't necessarily look as a bad phone and I don't think it necessarily is, but it really depends on the audience they're aiming for. Because when it comes to day-to-day life experience, I will say that the camera itself simply isn't good enough. And again, therefore I will say it depends on the audience. If you're a person that doesn't really care about photography and you just want a solid phone for display and of course battery life, then the POCO X5 is good for that. I think for the price itself, around 200 euros, that's solid. When it comes to the audio quality, I will say it's actually pretty good. Overall the speakers make enough sound, but I do wish it was a little bit louder. It has decent amount of bass and overall pretty decent clarity as well. In terms of call quality, I will say that again here it does pretty well, and those people that I've called did say that the microphone quality was pretty good. And when it comes to the fingerprint scanner, again I will commend it for doing a good job here. It's a side mounted fingerprint scanner and it works fast and very reliable. It hasn't missed one single beat when it comes to that fingerprint scanner. But if you want a phone that is a little bit more balanced and has of course a better camera, there I feel like the POCO X5 definitely lets it down. The camera itself just isn't good, and if you are in a not optimal situation, it definitely struggles a lot, including that main sensor itself. The ultra wide is also just not good enough. especially for the price. I feel like they could have done just a little bit better. And yes, while the Snapdragon 695 is old, it still runs fine. And in day-to-day life experience, I don't think it's necessarily bad. But what I really want to say when it comes to the POCO X5 is that it's either a really bad phone for someone or it's a really good phone for someone. And that comes simply down to your preferences. Do you want a phone with a good display and good battery life? Then the POCO X5 is fine, especially for the price itself. Do you want a phone that has more balance in terms of performance to camera and so on? Then the POCO X5 simply isn't it. Maybe the Pro is, but I don't have the one. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this short video about the POCO X5. Let me know in the comments below if you have any specific questions about it. Anyway, have a good one and talk to you guys in the next